Good evening, everybody, and welcome to HYC Yacht Club. Whether you are in front of me here enjoying the comfort of our clubhouse here at HYC Yacht Club, or whether you are at home enjoying it in the comfort of your own home, we'd like to welcome you. I am absolutely delighted to be able to introduce Eoin Kernan this evening, who is a partner and a friend at HYC Yacht Club. And I think this evening he's going to share his personal journey in terms of the blue mind, and I suppose the impact that the blue or the sea has on our personal happiness and our personal growth. So I would like to introduce Eoin and let him take over this evening, and I hope you enjoy, I suppose, his wellness journey and how the blue can really help us in terms of our overall wellness. So Eoin, over to you, and hope you enjoy your evening. And thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. And thank you for giving up your Tuesday evening to come out and to be here in person or online. I'm going to have to get used to staying in my little cage here. I've been given a cage because there's a camera there in front of me that people online are going to be tuning in from as well. So hello to everyone. Who am I? Why am I here? What do I do? So my name is Eoin Kernan, and I run a SUP center here in HYC through a collaboration with the yacht club called DiscoverSUP. And I'm going to talk to you today about the power of blue. We'll delve into what I mean by that as we go along. I'm not here as a medical practitioner. I'm not here as a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, any sort of physician. I'm here talking in my own lived experience with mental illness and my own childhood, teens, tweens, 30s, nearly 40, life on the water and how the two have married together. That's really what I'm going to explain to you this evening. There will be some, things along the way that you can take away. The one caveat I put around in all of this is, if you are going to endeavor to find your way in the blue, make sure if it's to do with something to do with illness or something to do with, a medical condition, that you do it in consultation with the right people. That's what I would say to you. So to start off with, this is going to be a little bit interactive as we go along. So if you can all pull out your phone and go to slido.com, you can do this online at home as well. Go to slido.com and it'll ask you to input that code 2366496. And if you do that, you're going to be asked a question. And the question is, have you a relationship with water? Simple answer, yes or no. I'd like you to answer it, and we'll see the live results come up on the screen as we go along. So we have one answer in already, or maybe that's more than one, but 100% so far, saying yes. Is there anyone going to say no? We just give it another couple of minutes. See, do we have everyone with an answer? Okay, so hopefully we haven't missed anyone's answers and you've all agreed that you all have a relationship with water, which I'm delighted to see. That relationship can be a very obvious one, like going out sailing, going out kayaking, going for a walk on the riverbank. But as we learn as we go along, it can be much more simple things than that as well. And that's why if anyone answered no there, I was going to challenge you and say that you do have a relationship with water. You may just not realize it yet. So as we go along, what is blue? What do I mean when I talk about blue? Well, essentially, I'm talking about water. This is a wonderful phrase or a wonderful quote that I came across that I use a lot, which is, water is life's matter and matrix, mother and medium. There is no life without water. And I think it sums it up perfectly. It is basically what we're all made of. It is our matter. You'll find out shortly how much, but it is what creates us, what creates nearly everything around us on the planet. It's the matrix. It's what we come from. So if we think back to prehistoric era when there was people, animals climbing out of the water and, development as we went along, we came from water. Everything comes from water. It's the mother. It's what keeps us nourished, it's what keeps us hydrated, it's what keeps us healthy, and it's also the medium that a lot of everything that happens on the planet happens within. So I think it's a great way of summing up what we're going to be looking at this evening. 71% of the world outside is made up of water. This is where we go back to geography. We go back to what did we learn in school. 71%, that picture there is the famous blue marble picture from the Apollo 17 mission. It was one of the very first images that people saw of the planet from afar. And I think it's an eye-opening image. It really shows how much of the planet is actually made of water. 71% is a huge amount. But when we then go on, we see that 60% of the world inside is made up of water as well. So 60% of us, 60% of our human body is made up of water. There's a big connection there between how much outside and how much inside is made up of water. And that to me shows the connection that we have and why we are drawn to water. We're drawn to what is essentially a living organism outside as well as a living organism inside. We think about on the planet, we have oceans, seas, rivers, lakes. We have various different forms of water, but we also have different forms of water in our body as well. We have water in our blood, we have water in our organs like our bladder and our liver. We also have a huge amount of water up here in our brain, a huge amount of water, nearly 90% up here in our brain. And again, that just shows the connection and the commonality between what's going on out there and what's going on in here and why the two interplay so much. So a little bit, we won't delve into too much about blue history, but just to bring it back a little bit. So look, water has been in the way of the world since years and years and years gone by. It's been used for commerce, it's been used for trade, it's been used for play. It's also been used for grieving, you know, many moons ago. Then it kind of got forgotten about for a little while. Around the 1600s, 1700s, water kind of got pushed away, particularly because it was so dirty. It wasn't a nice environment. But then slowly but surely, these kind of baths got picked up again around the 17th and 1800s, and medical bathing was introduced. Medical bathing was an interesting one. People believed you could cure everything by going for a swim. You could cure cancer, you could cure leprosy, you could even cure flatulence, apparently, by going for a swim. Now, what I think is funny was that the early jacuzzi. You know? you had many people going into the water and yeah, a whole lot of bubbles appearing. So look, it's been in our history for a long time, but we've kind of moved away from it. We've come back to it. We've moved away from it. We've come back to it. And I think nowadays, and hopefully what you'll learn as we go along tonight is we are beginning to come back to it again. We are beginning to see the science behind why interacting with water is very powerful and how it helps us. And I'll talk a little bit about how it's helped me. So there we go. So a little bit about me. Interacting with water allows me to energize and exercise and to relax and heal my body and my mind. I've highlighted mind there because that for me is the really important bit about what I'm going to talk about tonight. As I'll describe in a little while, I have a very close connection with water and its therapeutic benefits, more to do with my mind than my body. I've discovered something truly special. That doesn't mean that I don't get out and I don't enjoy having a hard session on the water, kite surfing or paddle boarding, but at the same time, I do it more for my mind than my body. There's me somewhere out there in Hope Sound at age 3. That was the earliest photo I can find of when my relationship with water started. It's on a boat called Anatole, which I believe is still in the marina 36 years later. Paddy, you might be able to tell me whether it is or not. But there is a picture earlier than that I couldn't find of me in a yellow raincoat with a fishing rod in rock pools. But it started very early on. Little did I know where it was going to bring me to. But I think we can all look back and we can all find moments in our lives where that relationship with water started. It moved on to today. So 36 years later, there's me again in the harbour on a SUP board. And there's me with Ireland's Eye in the background on a kiteboard. So again, I love this kind of idea of the full circle of, you know, very early on as a child, 36 years later, back out on the water again. in the same area, utilizing it in the same way, just being drawn to that same place. In between, I did different things. I was a competitive swimmer for years in internal water, which I have to say I didn't like. You know, when I think about salty water nowadays, for me, it's all about getting out and getting salty. A good salty rinse. But in between that period, there was a black and white period. Black and white equals what color? Gray. And I'll come back to the color gray shortly. But there was a period about 4 years ago where things got very black and white for me. They became very gray. And that was a period where I had to move away from the water. I couldn't physically and mentally go near it. I developed mental illness, acute mental illness. I developed depression, generalized anxiety disorder, an eating disorder, and OCD that I'd lived with for all my life became very, very strong. And at the time, I didn't really know why all of this had come about. I just knew I had to step away from the water in order to deal with it, because it was becoming dangerous for me to get on the water, both physically and mentally. It was a very difficult time when you're that connected to that big blue out there. You really don't want to move away from it. I live on Burrow Beach. I look out to the sea. I had numerous times looking out the window, looking at the kite surfers going up and down the water, going, I want to be out there. And I couldn't be. So it was a very difficult time, but I'm glad I went through it, because if I hadn't, I wouldn't have discovered the power of blue that we'll go through now. For me, it was the catalyst that helped me discover that. So what is blue power? We are blue mind beings trapped in a red and gray mind world. We are drifting and very lost, and we are sicker and sadder than we have ever been. I don't know, does that make sense to anyone yet? This is a guy called Wallace J. Nichols who came up with this and came up with the idea of blue mind. And he talks about 3 different states of mind that we can be in at any one time. 2 which are very common, and a 3rd one which we're not so aware of, but we're beginning to become aware of it slowly, and we need to practice it. So the first one is red mind. And red mind there's 2 different definitions of red mind. There's the old definition of red mind, which is a state of mind that kept us safe. So here in our brain, just above our ears, we have a little thing called the amygdala. It's about the size of an almond, and it's our fire alarm in our head. It's the thing that keeps us safe. It causes the flight, fight, or freeze mechanism. And it perceives danger, it perceives threats, and over time it learns how to keep our body safe from those threats. So if you think back to years ago, a bear appeared. What would your body do? Your body would see the bear, to perceive it as a threat, and it would do one of those 3 things. It would either flight, run as fast as it could away from the bear, try and fight it, or freeze and just not know what to do. Okay? Or the other one is fawn, where it would kind of go down and pretend like it was dead. So red mind at one point in our evolution was a very good thing. It kept us really, really safe. And it allowed us to subconsciously react to threats. Okay? But in recent times, red mind has become something that has been a hindrance to our daily lives. Because now our body perceives threats from things like the mobile phone, social media, expectations of life, where we're supposed to be in terms of family, houses, kids, all that kind of thing as we go along, work expectations, you name it. And I'm sure everyone in this room has a personal thing they can think of that nowadays activates that red mind to a point where it's debilitating. It's no longer keeping us safe, it's actually a hindrance to us. And that is something that's very hard to escape. We all carry a phone in our pocket. It's always going ding, 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 ding. You know, we now have connected devices on our arms. We've connected devices around our homes. We have, you know, online audiences tuning in to listen to talks. It's very hard to escape the constant noise all the time. Okay? And that's where red mind has now become a hindrance. So we need to look at how can we stop that? But before we look at how we can stop that, we need to look at what is the step beyond that, which is gray mind. And gray mind is burnout. Gray mind is depression. Gray mind is what I experienced in 2019. It is that point where all of a sudden we just can't live anymore. We can't exist in this world based on all of these perceived threats that are coming at us. And our brain just gives up. It just says, I can't do this anymore. We can't mentally compute and we can't physically live. And that's gray mind. It's a very difficult place to be in. Some of you may have experienced it. Some of you may know some people who've experienced it, but it's not a nice place to be in. So what Wallace J. Nichols says is that we can look to create blue mind to proactively prevent red and gray mind. Now, what is blue mind? Blue mind is a meditative state that we enter when we're in, on, or around water. It's a state of peace that our body automatically goes into, our brain automatically goes into. And it's believed that this happens because of our connection with water from years and years and years ago, which is why I went back a little bit in history there a while ago. So it's this idea that our brain calms down, our brain starts to subconsciously enter a state where it's very chilled, for want of a better word. And it means that then when red mind starts to kick in, it's easier to deal with. And hopefully then we don't end up in a gray mind place. That's the idea behind it. So in terms of blue mind, what happens when we come near water is we enter this involuntary attentive state, which allows us to be very creative and allows us to problem solve. It's a science-based fact that happens. I don't have the science myself, but I just know that that has been researched and that is part of what happens. It also, by drinking a glass of water and by being around water, it affects our hormones. And stress hormones get reduced. And the lovely one that I read recently was oxytocin, which is known as the cuddle hormone, gets increased. Like, that's amazing. You know, just to be in, around, or on water, all of a sudden we feel happier and feel like we're being enveloped by the water because that hormone is being increased. So that's amazing, you know. Also, in terms of blue mind, we have things like the social network that it creates. We were born to live in tribes. We were born to grow up in tribes of 30, 40, 50 people. And nowadays, we all of a sudden live isolated. We live in 1- and 2-bedroom apartments in the city center, and we don't know anyone. And we go through our daily lives, particularly through COVID, with all of the home and remote working. We live in this world where we never meet anyone. We never see anyone. We never talk to anyone. But the water brings that connection, generally. You know, you can still do solo things on the water, but at times, more often than not, you are engaged with someone when you were out on the water. So that's the idea of blue mind. And that's the idea of how it can help us to be well. It has physical and mental changes in our body that allow us to be well. So how do we get to blue mind? It's a wonderful thing to talk about, but how do we get there? How do we get there as individuals? Before we get to that, because I want you to think about what you've done for the last day, all right, the last 24 hours, think about the activities that you did and think about your state of mind during those activities. And think about, would you think you were in a red mind state, a gray mind state, or a blue mind state? God, we've a whole load of blue mind practitioners in the room and online already. This is fantastic. We give it another 30 seconds. Okay, so interesting to see that we already have some blue mind practitioners. Anybody in the room want to put up their hand as to who, if you answered blue, or was everyone online, the people that answered blue? Those that answered gray, what I would say to you is hopefully you can take one thing away from tonight's talk as we go through ways to find blue mind that maybe might bring you back to a red mind state, and then you can work towards blue mind state. So blue outside, how can we find blue through outside? 99s and sprinkles. We're not going to make this hard, right? We're going to make this really, really easy to start with. And I did try and find a picture. I wanted to try and find a picture of two people sitting in a car, eating ice creams, looking out at a cold winter's day on the sea, but I couldn't. So this was the next best thing. But it's the idea that we can get out, we can just be in the presence of water, and immediately that blue mind state will start to kick in, okay? We don't have to be doing anything special like going sailing around the Fastnet Rock. We can do simple things, and this is one of them. So go to the East Pier, buy yourself an ice cream in Anne's shop, sit down and look at the water, and blue mind state will start to kick in straight away. All right, not any more difficult than that. You might have to mind it from the seagulls, that's all I'm saying. So then the next one is experiment. So I'll tell you a little story about this lady. This is Jay. Jay is a client of mine who I had out on the water during the summer. And prior to meeting Jay in person, she called me. And she called me with a request that she had a number of stand-up paddleboarding lessons in the warm waters of Fuerteventura. And they had gone so-so. There was a little bit of lost in translation with the instructor and things like that. But she didn't feel like she had the confidence to get out in the Irish water. She was really nervous of it, but she really wanted to do it. The other big thing with Jay was she had she'd had a traumatic injury a number of years previous, and both of her ankles were very inflexible as a result. She had a lot of rework done on her ankles. But she came to me and said, we'd give it a go. With Jay, and a very interesting thing happened. We came here to Howth. We had our safety briefing on the land, and then we went to hit the water. And we went down the slipway. We put the two boards on the water, and I turned around, and she was in floods of tears. And I mean floods of tears. And I went, oh God, what's going on here now? This may not go any further than this. But it was sheer joy. It had overcome her, absolutely overcome her, this idea that she could get into the water here in Ireland. Now, this was about a half an hour later, right? And I'm looking at Jay in that photo, and I'm kind of trying to decide, is she looking at me with love or with loathe? I'm not quite sure. I've never asked her. But the next picture is her 3 sessions later over by Ireland's Eye, paddling. And that to me was just another way of finding your way on the water, finding that sense of happiness on the water, finding that sense of self-confidence on the water. Again, that blue mind state of when you are in, around, or on water, that you are happy in yourself, you're happy in your surroundings. And that has happened for Jay a number of times. I've seen it happen on the water for her. So experiment, try new things on the water. Try, if you never normally go through the water, just take your shoes off and stand in the shallows and let the water lap on your feet. That will start to have an effect. Or maybe it's that you try and learn sailing, or you try and do scuba diving, or whatever it might be for you, whatever the experiment is for you. The reason I use the word experiment and not challenge is very important. The reason for that is with an experiment, you have a positive or a negative result, which you learn from for the next time. With a challenge, you either have success or failure. And after that, you can feel like crap if you fail. So with an experiment, you shouldn't ever feel like crap. Judgment-free confessions. Now, I've purposely used a river otter for this photo, right? I did want to use a seal because I have great engagement with the seals over in Tulla Rock on Ireland's Eye. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. But again, this idea that when we get out into the water, we engage with nature in a way where there is no expectation. There is no judgment. There is no sense of, meeting a seal in the water and him looking at you going, well, you're wearing the wrong clothes today, or, where's your PFD, or where's your leash, or whatever it might be. We engage with nature where they just look at us and we look at them, and it's just a moment, but it's a very special moment that we don't have on a day-to-day basis in our normal lives. And that's another thing we can get from being in, on, or around the water. Again, I use a river otter because I want to focus on the idea that we have inland experiences as well as coastal experiences. This isn't all about being out in the salty sea. This can happen down on a river, it can happen at a weir, it can happen at a lake, it can happen wherever. It can happen in a pond, for instance. You know, why have we had so many water features in gardens over our lifetimes? Because they're doing something for us. You know, they're causing us to have that blue mind experience in our home. So then this idea of find the rhythm. This one is really important for me. So when I'm out on the water, so my two main sports are stand-up paddleboarding and kite surfing. And when I'm out on the water in either of those sports, when I start my session, it takes me about 10 to 20 minutes to find the rhythm of the water that day. It's a very specific thing I have to do with my mind, and it's different every time I hit the water because of whatever way the wind is, whatever way the swell is rolling that day, whatever state of tide we're in, and also whatever way I'm feeling. That's the other side of it. And all of those things come together to cause this rhythm, and there is a rhythm to it. At times it can look like a maelstrom, it can look like the water's coming from everywhere, but there's still a rhythm to it. And you can find that rhythm. And when you tune into that rhythm, it's an amazing feeling. It's a feeling of flow state where everything just happens. Your kite is up in the air, you're hitting every wave that's coming against you, but you're just doing it subconsciously. Or you're out on your boat, and again, you're trying to aim for that mark, and you keep getting headed, but you're getting it right. You're getting back down each time, you're getting it right. And it's just flow state. It's just happening. It's natural. It's happening to you. There's a reason why surfers spend so much time in the water. They get into that rhythm of the sets of the waves that come through, you know? And where does that come from? There's early research starting to happen that there's a belief, and I've kind of bought into it, that we learn the idea of rhythm of water, rhythm of fluid when we're in our mother's tummy. We're surrounded by fluid. And she's walking up and down, she's doing whatever she needs to do, and we're moving inside all the time. And that rhythm is happening while we're in there. So our first 9 months of development, one of the very first things we're experiencing is rhythm. And so then when we hit the water, if you just go out and you just lie on your back and you look up to the sky, you're enveloped by that fluid, by that water again, and you're finding that rhythm again. So that one for me is a really, really strong one. In a world where we have very little rhythm, you know, when you think about it, you can't control the notifications that come into your phone. They come in bang, bang, bang. They might stop, bang, 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 bang. You know, there's no rhythm to it. There's no rhythm as such to the news. You know, it's very hard to find rhythm. But we're creatures of habit. We like to find rhythm. We like to have organization in our lives because that's safe. You know, that gives us a sense of control. It gives us a sense of well-being in a way. So we find that in the rhythm on the water. This last one in terms of outside is also very important. The idea of sharing is caring. This particular image here was May of this year. And it was a group of 32 stand-up paddleboarders who came out on the water at 4:30 in the morning to do a darkness into light stand-up paddleboard event. And in that moment, that morning, we had some of the most amazing experiences because number one, we saw this big ball of flame come up from the horizon. Not many people get to experience that lying in their bed, you know, so you had to be out on the water to experience it. We also had fog come in, so it changed. We had a totally different experience. You know, the fog came in as we were coming back in. So again, two very different experiences on the water. But more importantly than all of that, we had a shared experience. We had 32 people out on the water. And that goes back to that idea of being a tribe. You know, we see that in outdoor swimming clubs nowadays, you know, that have all popped up as a result of COVID. There's that sense of tribe, that sense of family, that sense of sharing. And that's where then, you know, you don't know what you might say to someone out on the water. And when they go home in their car, that's just settled them. That's just helped them. Maybe it wasn't a very obvious discussion about a mental problem or, you know, a family issue or whatever it might be, but you might have just said something. Alternatively, you might have just taken their mind away from it. That's the other side of it. When I'm out on the water, again, going back to the idea of kite surfing, in a way, I'm fighting for my life half the time, you know, trying to get through the waves. So I can't think about anything else. It's a great distraction. It's a great way to all of a sudden not have to worry about what's going on at home or for that half an hour, that hour that you're out on the water. you know? So use it as an opportunity to cleanse the mind. But we can also find blue at home. That's the other side. And this is where we keep it simple. The mammalian dive reflex. Does anyone know what that is? Yeah? Yeah? So I discovered the mammalian dive reflex when I was in treatment for my mental illness. I knew nothing about this. One day I was having a panic attack and someone gave me a bowl of water and said, splash your face. So I splashed my face, not knowing exactly why I was being told to do this, but I was kind of at the point of just accepting all the help I could get. And immediately this sense of kind of calmness started to come over me. It wasn't a calmness up here, it was a calmness in here. It was a calmness in my physical being. Because in here, just through between our eyebrows, down our nose, we have a whole load of receptors that are there from many years ago. I'm talking about back in the days when there was only mammals in the water, no mammals on land. But they've stuck with us in our genetics and in our makeup throughout our lives. And what they're there for is this idea that if we end up in the water, we can't always be getting oxygen. We can't always be breathing because we don't have gills. So we need to slow down our oxygen reserves, or how much of our oxygen reserves we are using while we're in the water. So our whole body slows down. Our heart rate slows down. The metabolism in our lungs slows down. And all of a sudden, our body just becomes calmer as a result, because it's forced to, in a way. So if you're at home and something has happened, let's say you've got a call from work and it's stressed you out, or the kids are stressing you out, or whatever it might be, go into the bathroom, turn on the tap, splash a bit of water in your face. That idea of freshening yourself up, yeah, it's linked to it, but that's what happens. Your whole body will slow down as a result. It's a very simple thing to do. And again, when your body slows down, your brain slows down. So you find that calm space in your head again. Shower songs. Who here sings in the shower? Fantastic. Well, I'll tell you, you are doing a great thing for your mental well-being. We have a thing in here called the vagus nerve. Okay, and this is where I'm going to get a little bit physical or physician-like. We have a vagus nerve in here. It's the superhighway between here and here in terms of our nervous system. Okay, it controls all the signals going from here to here and vice versa. So there's a lot of traffic. If you think about it on a day-to-day basis, there's a lot of traffic going up and down that space. It can get quite clogged. It can get quite busy. It can get quite tired. One of the ways of calming that down is while you're in the shower, open your mouth. If your shower water is clean, open your mouth, take a little bit of water into your mouth and gargle. And just gargle like no one can hear you, right? Or sing your favorite ABBA song with water in your mouth if you can. But the idea is that controls your vocal cords, which then activates your vagus nerve. And as a result, that cleanses that and allows that connection between the brain and the body to become a little bit cleaner and clearer, and helps the body to helps the brain to calm down as a result, and helps the reaction, remember that red mind reaction of the amygdala, to be slower and calmer. Okay, so sing in the shower, right? You all have absolute permission to do that now, no matter what anyone says to you at home. And then the last one, the idea of a glass half full, really, really simple, okay? There's sometimes nothing better than just taking a cold glass of water, okay? It does a couple of things. Again, it activates the throat, which activates the vagus nerve, which then cleanses that space. It also helps to cool down the gut. And you hear that phrase, the gut feeling, right? Coming from here, which controls here. If you can calm down, control the gut, you can control up here. Okay. So a glass of cold ice water can sometimes be the best trick ever. All right. So you can see, Blue Mind doesn't have to be about going out and doing amazing things out in the outdoors. Blue Mind can happen at home. Very simple. Okay. Now, blue therapy. I'm going to show you a film now, which is about 7 minutes long. Okay. It's about a guy called Ray. And I just want you to watch it. I want you to get yourselves just soaked into his story. Okay.
It was the 16th of September and Ray was heading off to college, and he just started his master's, and it was about maybe 5:15 in the evening. He headed off anyway, and I got a call from the guards. It was only about maybe an hour or a bit more later. And he was very casual, and he said, look, you know, your husband had an accident, and he gave your phone number, and he asked me to ring you, and he's gone to CUH. And I was like, okay, but he was talking, and yeah, but, you know, just go there as soon as you can. So it really wasn't until I got there, and the nurse said to me, he clipped a car and he went under a lorry. He hit a lorry. So she said, it's really serious, but she said, I will get somebody to talk to you in a while. Later then, one of the doctors came in and told us, look, we've got the x-rays, and Ray has a serious spinal injury, and that he'll be paralysed from under the chest down.
She's always nearly gone for about 40, 50 minutes, and that's kind of how long I walk for. Everything around here I can't feel, but I can feel this, but I can't feel the back.
I know that after the swim, it'll be a better me. Yeah, I'm going to feel better, and I'm going to be a nicer person, I suppose. There's that sense of deserting him in a way because he loves swimming. But then at the same time, I suppose you have to kind of just detach yourself a bit and say, well, that's not helping him.
Like, I have to do this, otherwise I'm not right for the day and things like this. And you do miss it, but I've no business in the car watching somebody swim. There's a very good physio unit in CUH, Cork. I got better there is the best way I would describe it. And then I got sick again. They got a cardiologist to have a look at me. And he confirmed there was pericarditis there. And they started draining my lungs immediately. And then the operation, and that was it. One of the things that was always in my head when I was confined was, I'm getting into that water if it's the last thing I'll do. Jellies in?
They were. Nice cold swim.
Excellent. That's what I need. Jellyfish.
You get something to eat?
Not yet. Over me?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Every now and again she comes back and you do get jealous because she's been and I haven't been. I've really missed it, like.
Yeah.
Jesus, sorry. Shag it. I was strong and I always felt I could take care of my family. Then all of a sudden it's kind of, then you can't walk, like. And you're the nuisance in the house. And I don't mean it like, oh, I'm the nuisance. I don't mean it like that, but every now and again you go like that, you know. I'm getting back in for the first time in 2 years, like, you know.
Do you want some celery?
Yep. I can't wait, and I don't want to go all in the same breath, you know. It's kind of one of those kind of things. And so there's that, you know.
Well, there's a fear. There is still an anticipation, even.
Yeah, just an anxiousness around it and things like this. I think that's one of the things. And can you do it? Will something happen to me? And it just gives you a kind of an itch that you can't scratch more than anything else. You know, an edge, I suppose, you know. The reason I'm doing this morning is to see if I can get my legs going inside in the water, like, so when I flip over, that the legs will start paddling themselves, so we'll just see if we have takeoff, you know. So that's what I'm hoping everything will kind of be back to normal service when I get into the water. I was thinking about last night because I didn't sleep, and I just, you know, you just go in and nothing happens, you know, that I don't, like, and nothing goes wrong. All of a sudden, tension's kind of building just a little bit. I think I'll be okay. You just keep a bit of weight today.
Got enough space?
Yeah.
You probably, where do you want to transfer? Here?
Yeah.
Up here?
Is it cold? I don't say that thing. Oh, slow down now.
Okay,
Slow down.
yeah.
Easy now. Give me a chance to get used to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh! Oh! Oh!
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting
Keep
for a
going.
minute. Okay.
Oh, I feel cold. Right. Transport delivery. Oh, Jesus, lads, it's freezing. Oh. It's just brilliant to be in, like, and if when you take something away, it's to get it back is a very special thing, you know. Whatever about anything else, you know, the chair doesn't matter. I don't have to watch where my hands are, what I'm pushing or anything. It's just you go out and you swim and you're free. I know we have to bring all this stuff to get there, but when we're in there, the accident doesn't count.
The fact that we can get in on this pier, kind of amazing, because some places just are, you know, you just can't get back in there and that's it, it's over. Being able to get back in here where we've always swam is lovely.
Yeah.
It's really, really nice.
Oh, Jesus, good.
I'm just so glad we've done it now, and I'm looking forward to lots more swims. Yeah. He's done it.
Yeah.
So that's Ray. And that's an excerpt from a documentary called Vitamin C, which was on RTE in 2019. The very first time I saw that, I was in tears after watching his story. And it still gets me. Every time I watch it, I still get a little lump in here. Because that last moment there where you see him sitting in the chair and he goes, yeah, that's Blue Mind. You can see it in his face. You can see the calmness, the confidence, the chilled nature. You know, you compare that to earlier on in the day when he was on the bike and there was a little bit more tension, a little bit more intensity there. You know, I have to get this, you know, I have to get this right, whatever. That, all of that washed away. He said in the, you know, just coming out the water, you have to bring all this stuff with us. But when we're in the water, the accident doesn't matter. So it's the great equalizer in a way, you know. You see so many different types of things that we spoke about there in terms of Blue Mind throughout that piece. At the beginning, you see his wife engaged in a communal activity, you know, on the water, engaged in that sharing is caring idea. You see his engagement with nature, the non-judgment between him and the jellies. You know? You don't see the jellies looking at him going, who are you, you know? You also see that idea then of just happiness, you know, at a very intimate moment between him and his wife. You know, that they can both do this together, that all of a sudden the accident doesn't matter anymore. And that's Blue Mind. That's blue. That's the power of blue. So that's Ray's story. I want to just recap back a little bit to when I told you a little bit about my story. That year or a couple of years of grey that I had, proper grey mind, very hard to deal with. I'm coming out the other side of it now, which is great, and I can feel comfortable to say that. But if I go back and I think about that time, I certainly didn't have Blue Mind. I had grey mind. I had a state where I couldn't feel like I could stand beside anyone on the beach because I didn't feel I had self-worth. I didn't feel I had value. I didn't feel I could match up to anyone else on a kiteboard beside me, or, you know, I didn't feel like I had any value beside them, that I was worthwhile even being there, that they wanted to know me. I didn't feel like anyone wanted to know me. I also felt, for reasons outside of that, that my world was out of control. My world was collapsing. And in order to regain the control, I developed an eating disorder. I developed very strong, much stronger than nowadays, OCD. And as I said, all of that meant that my physical body deteriorated and I couldn't go on the water. And as I said, I went back to that idea then of looking out the window and seeing everyone out there and really wanting to be out there and not being able to find it. So skip on a little bit. to after the initial stages of my treatment, and I'm back and I'm renourished to a certain degree, but I still have this mental block of getting out on the water. Can't do it, just not right. And I'm looking out the window, and I'm, in a way, I'm teasing myself. I'm restricting myself because it's giving me a sense of control. It's giving me a sense of, well, Owen, you want to do that, but you can't. You know, you're restricting your joy of life in a way. Okay. So just picture that scene. Okay. Now, picture my partner, Carolina, who unfortunately isn't here tonight, but she has been a rock through all of it. And she came up to me one day and she said, oh, will we give it a go? Will we give it a little go? And we had a couple of paddle boards at home. Both boards were only big enough to take one person, but I wasn't really going out on my own. I didn't want to go out on my own. So she said, come on, look, we'll just take one board down. We'll just go into the shallows. We'll just see what happens. I was really hesitant about doing it. I said, okay, yeah, right. Okay, I'll go with you. And I said, I'd stand, all I would do is stand at the edge. I wouldn't even get into the water, but I'd stand at the edge of the water. We'd see what happened. So the next image you're about to see is about 3-4 minutes after we got down to the water. And that's my blue mind face. That's the first time I can say I properly experienced blue mind. All my cares went out of the world, all of a sudden, just like that. I got up on the board and all we were worried about was having fun on the board for a few minutes, trying to stay balanced, in fact, because as I said, the board was only designed for one person. There was 2 grown adults on it, all right? And we just wanted to stay balanced. But that is my blue mind face. So everything I've told you to date stems back to that moment. That's where I started to learn about all of this and started to experience it and wanted to share it with the rest of the world, because I think it's really important, particularly in the type of world we live in today, where we can find a lot of pressure and a lot of negativity. And this is a simple way out. Not to fix everything, it's not a cure-all, but it gives us that bit of breathing space. So what's going on your aquatic prescription? Jump onto Slido for a second. I just want you to pick one thing. Maybe it's something you've heard. Maybe it's something that you've thought of as we've been going along, but something that you might try to see how you might be able to get blue mind a little bit stronger in your life. What could you do? Just type in something in as a little sentence. We'll see them pop up on the screen. I just want to know what's going on your prescription. What are you going to prescribe to yourself to try and experiment with after tonight? Someone said helming. Well, that's intense, but good. You're definitely with the rhythm of the water on that one. A weekly splashing. I love that. A salty splash, salty rinse. Nothing better. Sea dips. Brilliant. Paddle every day. I'd like to go for more walks by the sea and maybe start. Brilliant. Breathing with my toe in the water. I love that one. That's really good. Really, really good. That's a sea swimming with the mermaids. 300. Brilliant. If you are a mermaid, fantastic. Find a kayak group. Drink more water. That's a brilliant one. Drink more water. It's a real simple thing you can do. We're all told to drink X number of liters every day. I'm not going to set a number on it. I'm just going to tell you drink a little bit more. All right. Get kite surfing lessons. Absolutely. Yeah. If you want to find the rush and the risk of kite surfing, definitely, because it's brilliant. Every morning paddleboarding. Brilliant. We just see, are there any more coming in? Cold showers. Yes. There's a lot to be said for a cold shower. Paddling, but Joey won't join me. Stay on and in the water over the winter. Yes, I think that's something that's really good to think about as well, is you can engage with water over the winter. Maybe not in the same way that you have been in the summertime, but you can still engage with it. And again, you know, you just have to find the right way that suits you. Try paddleboarding, sea swimming in the surf. Absolutely. So many great things. I think we have one more person typing, so we'll just see that they come in. Listen to the sea. Yes, yes, absolutely. There's a rhythm in listening to the sea. You hear that rhythm of the waves coming through. So that's a great one. So I leave you with this, which is empty your mind. Be formless and shapeless like water. Be water, my friend. Simple as that. If anyone has any questions or observations or thoughts on what they've heard, I'd be very happy to hear them. Yeah. Sure.
About 25 years ago, I got into 50. And I pulled over. And thank God I pulled over. Right, now since then, I want to make some helpful tips. There's a movie, well, with Patriots. They had the blue pill. Now I'm going to switch. Red pill is actually, if you were the first protection of the and the blue pill is actually really just that more and it's a transition. This is not a criticism, it's an observation. Your lecture, which is excellent, but it was redefining cyber
Mhm.
and that's a everybody is aware that nice is a journey, it's not right. You're also aware too, and say this because the way it seems like a religious precepts, but it's also a factor of not enough psychological evidence. Is that actually like the software? And you have, there is this, in terms of the red pill and that, there's this awful mythology, myth that we must be happy. And we have a whole range of consumerism, a whole range of lifestyles and that to get into that state. It's a myth, doesn't exist. And that's part of the red pill and that people have bought into that paradigm and won't shift from it. Now, let's actually move to the shift of the thought. The first thing out of that, you are quite right, we're consisted of an awful lot of water and so on. So first of all, drink water. Because our brain is 80% water or so. Second of all, and I'm not making a religion out of this and that, it's incredibly important to actually develop a plant-based diet, not exclusively so, but predominantly a plant-based diet, and that because nature, in my view, has given the best medical system out there, and that in terms of vitamins, minerals, and so on, and water, which actually goes through your organs and that, and energizes your brain water-wise and that. Now that's from the water-based diet on your physiology. Then the second thing, and I won't make this too long, but I think it's important so people take an ideas away from it, and that is in the red pill, and that we're locked into this paradigm. We have 60,000 thoughts floating through our brain every day. That's psychologists recognize that. Now, if I can surface that, what I call attention factors, and they're based upon your journey, particularly from the past, the good and the bad and the indifferent. Now, depending upon a person's journey and that, they can have picked up an awful lot of garbage along the way, based upon perceptions of interaction with a lot of people. My father was a junkie, he was a bully. I'm just stating that as a fact and that, but I can recognize and make that statement with compassion at 76 years of age. I couldn't state that when I was 50 years of age. And so when these thoughts float up into your mind and that, now you've got various options to go. You've got to recognize them, nullify them. Now you have various options. You can go the religious approach, and that can be appropriate for some people, or the other approaches in that you recognize you're now an adult and you can't perceive that perception, it just floats it up to the top of your mind when you're 10 years of age. You're not 10 years of age, you're 50 years of age. And in time, and it's a maturity factor by living in the moment, recognizing that life is a journey and that you can actually get these thoughts to subsume and you look at them in a healthy manner. So I can say with utmost confidence, and this is where I am not interested in what anyone thinks of me, and that's a maturity factor, it's not an argument factor. I can say with utmost confidence, with charity that A, B, C, D, and E were not nice people and that, but I moved on from them. And if you like, using another component that I forgive them, but I don't think of them anymore. It's all subsumed. And that is as actually what I would describe as working on the red pill factor. Now you move into your blue pill factor, and it's an important factor. I have noticed consciously, and I've lived in 4 places, Dublin, Canada, and so on. I've always lived beside the sea. And I found that fascinating when I taught him when this stuff was surfacing and that. There was a reason for that. You actually indicated that there in terms of the water factor. Now you don't have to get involved in the water factor. Now I want to offer some suggestions to that. Snorkeling is very important. You don't have to swim, you don't have to be scuba. Just put on a snorkel mask and look down at the sea, and the water is beating against your face all of the time. That is incredibly refreshing. The second notion, now these are just elements you introduce into life depending on your lifestyle. And the next thing I would suggest is actually, and I did this when I was in the Canadian Arctic as an industrial development officer, with others, by the way, you jump into cold bloody water and that you get out very quickly and that, and there's hot water is thrown over you. The impact on your physiology is incredible. Now, the third factor, and you brought it up very interesting in that, is stand beside moving water. It's no accident that the Victorians, when they were going on their marriages and that, they went down to Niagara Falls because actually all the energy was coming from it, and it energizes people. So go to areas where there is waterfalls, moving water, and so on and that. The third thing in that, and then again you have to ratchet up to your own, the fourth thing in the ratchet up to your own style, and that is actually swim. Just swim, swim, swim. Because there is evidence out there, and I've researched the evidence in that water, and you mentioned it in terms of the pregnancy issue, and that water gives off energy, and your body absorbs that energy. So anyway, I'm going to summarize it that there's a red pill and it's the blue pill. Excellent blue pill stuff in that. But it has to take on board the red pill situation, this thing certainly. And the reason why I decided to actually, if you like, go public in this, bear in mind, and this is and I repeat this so that people can take this on board in terms of their own journey, and that I don't care what anybody thinks of me. There's a maturity factor in that. That's not an ego statement. And what I've noticed actually, and I'm going to leave it at this, you mentioned we were social beings and that, and it's very important to be able to socialize to being. I was a former lecturer in that, and I developed, and I told all my master students to consciously develop social skills. Because what has happened now with the COVID situation now, so much isolation is developed in that, so much of this, saying to Harriet here and that earlier on, so much of this blue pill or red pill stuff has surfaced in that, and you mentioned it and so on, and people can't handle that. So if you develop appropriate social skills with all the empathy and discernment that is necessary in that, you can help people and they can help you in that. And particularly if you develop empathy skills in that, to be able to help people not make stupid mistakes. Because I'm just leaving at this here. One of the final health things to do, I walk around as a lecturer. I've met, and I've talked to them very gently in that, two people up in that class, which if I didn't stop, I knew, I'm going to repeat it again, I knew they were going to jump. So it's very, very important you talk to people in an empathetic manner as well, and that, because people need your help.
Very, very well made points. I think a lot of what you say there makes sense, and I wouldn't disagree with any of it. I suppose what I would caveat what I've said tonight on is I absolutely don't disagree that we can't have everything perfect all the time. You know, the world is not perfect. We are not perfect. We're fallible. I was only talking to Melissa earlier on before we started tonight about the idea that we can't, we were talking about parenting. You can't expect to get parenting right all the time. And even if you did, your kids then will grow up to expect everything to be right all the time. And they can't be. They have to learn how to deal with, things that are difficult, deal with things that, are hard to live with. So absolutely agree with that. The other thing I would say though as well is, and I think you've possibly experienced this yourself, when I developed my mental illnesses, and my mother who's sitting here tonight will tell you, I committed to treatment on the basis that I was going in for 2 weeks and I was going to come out fixed. I was going to come out and I was going to be fine. No problem. And that's all I was going in for, was 2 weeks. And what are we now? 4 years later, and I'm still seeing a therapist. And I'm still trying to fix things. And I'm never going to get it all right, but I'll get things quietened. You know, things will slow down. The voices, the issues in my head, the things that it's telling me to do, I'll be able to quieten them. Not all the time, but at times in the day, or times in the week, or times in the month, I'll be able to quieten them, and then they'll get stronger, and then they'll get weaker again. And I suppose the idea of Blue Mind is not that you're going to be cured, not that you're going to have all the problems of the world solved tomorrow, but that by using Blue Mind proactively, or working towards simple ways of doing Blue Mind, like some of those ideas of how you can do it at home, that you then are in a better frame of mind, and you're stronger to deal with when those red mind issues come up. That's all, you know. So look, don't anyone walk out this room tonight thinking, oh, well, if I start Blue Mind, I'm going to be grand tomorrow. You're not. Okay, I promise you, you are not. And if you go with that idea, you've a false dawn. You're going to feel worse probably. All right. Take it in small stages. Try little things. See what works. See what doesn't work. Something might work at one point, and then a year down the line, it might just not work anymore. You might have to find something else. Okay. Yeah.
On your state of mind,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. The kite surfing. Yeah. So just for those online, the idea there was when I'm in a more distressed state of mind, do I go for the softer, easier paddle on the water? And then if I'm in a stronger frame of mind, do I go for the harder, more difficult, more energizing kite surf? Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Sometimes the kite surf can be the best way to sweep everything out. Right? So if I am in a bad frame of mind, do you know what? Meeting up with a friend and going for, I have one individual who we go on the water together all the time, kite surfing. And if I'm not feeling great, sometimes the best thing to do is to go and meet him and go for a kite surf, because he'll help me, you know, just by saying something or telling me something different, or, you know, give me a different point of view on what I'm thinking, because I can talk to him about things. And then we go out and we have, as I say, a big salty rinse out there, clear everything out, you know. But then there is times where you have to be smart, and you have to be safe, and you have to realize that, and I say this to a lot of my clients when I'm taking them out stand-up paddleboarding. How are you feeling? What did you do last night? Did you have a bad night with the kids? Did you have a long week in work? Did you have a heavy night on the drink? Because if you get in trouble out there and you're not in the right frame of mind, then being able to get into the logical process of how to deal with things to get out of it isn't that easy. So it's a double-edged sword. At times it is right to go and take the easy route. And I don't mean that in a glib sense or a weak sense. The right route, let's call it. And then there's times when you can go out and go mad. Anyone else have anything? Anything online? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, if you look in the Indian culture and you look at the funeral pyres, and a lot of them were brought down to the river, and that was where their funerals happened. That's where they said goodbye to their dead. Again, you go back and you look in some cultures, bodies were actually sent off in a boat, you know, and they were, you know, sent to sea as such, and that was where they passed on. So water has always been in that sense innate in our culture. You know, you think about, and I'm not a massive religious person myself, but you think about baptism and you think about the use of water in baptism as well, you know. So it really is from cradle to grave that there's been a connection there with water. And this, sorry, I don't know your name. Alan mentioned about the, you know, some of the religious connotation, you know, around the way the way well-being has gone, you know, in terms of the commodification of it, and how it's become, in a way, a slightly religious thing to do, to be well all the time, right? But go back to the idea of the singing in the shower and the chanting, and you think about Buddhists, and you think about their culture, and you think about how, you know, chanting is part of their culture, and, you know, singing is part of other cultures, or sorry, other religious cultures. That's not a mistake. That's not an accident. You know, that came, I believe, and a lot of us believe, from the science. But they just happened to stumble upon it, not knowing the science at the time that we know now. And that's how, you know, these things developed. So there's reasons for everything. You know, it's just that we're now kind of discovering. Anyone else have any comments or questions? If not, I hope I did a good job. Okay, thank you. And just actually, sorry, just before you go, just to mention, so 2 books, if you do want to do a little bit more reading or research, that's Blue Mind, that's Wallace J. Nichols' book, okay, available in the library. That one is from the library. And then this one, the Natural Health Service, focuses not just on water, but on a number of other areas, including forests and, you know, different ways of using nature to stay well, okay? So 2 books if you want to do a little bit more reading. Yeah? Say that to me again now, sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry, yes. So DiscoverSUP, we have the Story Club. Thank you, Harriet. We have the Story Club, which is a club that I run during the winter. Again, looking at how can we stay engaged in water over the winter. This is not us going down and touching the water, but it is us reading stories and watching movies about the water, okay? And then talking about them afterwards. So if you go on to discoversup.ie, onto my website, you'll see a link to the Story Club. And you can sign up. It's free, doesn't cost anything. All you have to do is make yourself available one Thursday a month, the last Thursday of the month, have a read of a book or have a watch of a movie. All right.
Okay, just want to say thank you from Hoth Yacht Club for Eoin coming down here tonight. Thank you guys. Thank you, Cormac, as well, for helping us kind of set up this live stream. And if you have any questions either for Eoin or for us at the club, or about anything that you heard here tonight, you wanted to follow up on the name of a book or anything like that, just get in touch anytime with us at the club. And thanks, we're going to end the live stream now. So email us if you have any questions. Thank you.